Susyn. And Celeste, you did a great job with the opening. Thank you. Oh, I get to be tall. There's a little step here. I didn't want it moved for me. Okay, I'm going to start out at the beginning. I have some things for you. I really hope I have enough. And if by chance you don't get something at the end of the service, I have more somewhere in my bag. And so you'll have to remember here. Oh, one out for you. Okay, so this way, for those of you who are new here, when I speak here, I give out charms because I need constant reminders that I'm connected with Source. And these days, the connection is even greater. And while the connection with Source is great, it's occurred to me, given the state of the world and some of the horrific turmoil that's going on, that I really need to remember that not only am I connected with Source, but because I am a reflection of Source, and because God is in each one of us, that I'm connected with you. So the reason I've given out the charms at the beginning is that I ask that you hold them while we're together today. And if something touches you, and it may be that something I say evokes a feeling in you, or you look out the window and you see the new birth and renewal that springtime is, and you feel alive in your being, endow this charm with that. And I've chosen this charm, and it's become a challenge for me, a challenge that I really love, finding one that I haven't given before. So I chose this one, and it is, some people think it's a feather. I see it as an angel wing, as a reminder that we have a connection each and every moment with the invisible field of loving energy, with the greater field of life, with God. And so while I have my charm here on the podium, I'm putting on my prayer shawl, because when this was made many years ago, I endowed it with the quality of reminding me to be an instrument. And so rather than having it on earlier, I put it on now simply as a reminder for all of us that we can adorn ourselves. Whether it's with a piece of jewelry, it's a piece of clothing, it is anything that we may have, that we can adorn ourselves with those things that remind us of our connection with all that is. So one of the things that the schedule for the speakers was created at the end of last year. So I knew the dates well in advance of when I was going to speak. And I sent in titles. I looked at the theme for the month and I sent in titles, and I was really happy that the theme for this month is connection. And I thought, well, that's really easy for me. Because I believe connection matters more than anything, and that's the title that I had sent to Elizabeth and to Nick. And I was going to talk about its connection with Source, God of our understanding. In my understanding, that's the loving energy of the universe that always responds with a resounding yes to whatever our dominant vibration is, whatever energy we are experiencing and emoting at that particular time. And I was going to talk about the importance of our connection with one another and our connection with our vision, with what our wholehearted life vision is. And my definition of a wholehearted life is that a wholehearted life is a reflection of the sacred union of heart, mind, body, joined and aligned in conscious action, so that we are one in this community, We are one of the community of beings that inhabit Earth at this time. And we are also at one within us. And oftentimes, that's a challenge. Has anybody ever experienced that? Your body's in one place, your mind's someplace else. You've forgotten that you're spirit. And so much of our work, and what I mean by work is where we place our energy, is about remembering, getting those different members, those different parts of us in unison. And so, as I was driving out here this morning, the words of, now I've got to find them, the words of Chief Seattle, who lived from the 1780s to 1866, just kept going through my mind. Actually, his name kept going through my mind, and the feeling that the words evoke in me were alive as I drove along Ocean Parkway and Jones Beach. It was just so beautiful this morning. So these words for me capture truly the connection of all beings and all things. The earth does not belong to man. Man belongs to the earth. All things are connected, like the blood that unites us all. Man did not weave the web of life. He is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself. And so as I've been thinking about some of the events going on all over the world now, that so many of them pit one group against another group, one race against another race, one ethnic group against another ethnic group, one particular political point of view against another political point of view. It's so easy to imagine that that's going on out there. That's going on with them. That isn't true of me. And I ask myself, when my heart is broken open and I'm not initially feeling the light and love, but I'm feeling the pain of that break, is this spiritual stuff all a crock? Anybody ever ask themselves that question? And what occurs to me, because I believe as above, so below, because I believe that the microcosm influences the macrocosm, and the collective consciousness influences us all, and we influence it, I begin to wonder, if we are truly one, if we are truly connected, then it's crucial that I focus on the parts within me that I don't honor, the parts within me that carry a wound, the parts within me that forget that all of me is a mighty expression of love in the world. And sometimes the earth quakes just as we quake within us, because the tightness and the constriction of the beliefs that are other than love, when met with love, sometimes explode open. Now, I used to wonder, well, why can't the world just be loving? Why can't we just see the light in everyone? And then it occurred to me that the energy of love has a particular frequency. And if I have places in me where my beliefs are such that I am not enough, those constrictions, when met with that light, are going to meet a barrier. And sometimes what occurs is a quake within us. Sometimes that looks like depression. Sometimes that looks like road rage. Sometimes that looks like and is experienced as a dark night of the soul. Sometimes that is experienced as isolation and separation. And isn't it separation that creates hatred? And you're different from me because your color is different from me, your religion's different from me. But we sing in our songs, we hear in our prayers, we are one. There's the beginning of a verse in Corinthians has these words, now all things are of God. Not now all things that are like me are of God, although that's true. Well, I better put the word only in there. Now all things only like me are of God. It is that all things, all beings, all of life. And so what is that experience? To look at someone and rather than make the judgments of, oh, I really like you because you look like my best friend, or I don't know if we can really get along because some of your opinions are different than mine. What if instead we looked through the eyes of love? What if I wore glasses that had words written in a way that said, remember, God is before you? What difference would that make within me to experience life through that point of view and in how I see you? And what difference would that make in the collective consciousness that we live and swim in and breathe in? Might I be the tipping point in the energetic field? Might you be the tipping point? Some of you have heard a story that I've read here a number of times, and I'm just going to briefly speak to it, in which a monastery was in decline, and the abbot one day came back after speaking with a rabbi in the woods and said, the message the rabbi told me is, what if the Messiah is amongst us? So what is it like for us to own that? And when those judgments, those negative thoughts, those feelings about I'm not enough surface, and Mary alluded to this in her opening prayer, we see that this is surfacing to meet the light of love. It's no longer locked in our bodies, where there's more likely to create dis-ease, whether that is our physical symptoms or whether that is the discomfort of being in our bodies. So what is it for you, for me, to be a mighty expression of love in the world? So I'd like you just to take a moment and look around the room and imagine that you are looking through the eyes of God, through the eyes of love, to love, seeing love. So I'm going to encourage you to stand up and look around, move those bodies. Just look at God. Allow yourself to be love. This is one expression. Each one of us is one expression of love. Oh, have a seat. And the challenge becomes, how do I remember this? And so whether you start your day with a meditation, whether you start your day with exercise that brings you, certainly this time of year, out in nature, or you go for a walk on the beach and you stop for a moment and feel the air against your body. Watch the inflow and the outflow, the expansion and the contraction of the waves. Whether you smell that salt air, or you cook a meal, and it may be a meal for yourself, and you do it with love. You don't have the news on while you're doing it, but you're simply there in communion, in common union with the activity that you're involved in. I have on my computer a post-it that says, "I am a mighty expression of love in the world." And I can tell you there are moments when I'm having a problem with my computer, or that who's actually saying they're the mighty expression? Is it the computer reminding me and giving me the opportunity to, okay, take a breather and ask, what would love do here? And sometimes what love would do here is reboot. Press this key. Open up a new browser. Spend some time in silence. So our work, it's not about our job. Our work is about, where do I focus my consciousness? With an awareness that when I open myself to love, everything that's not love is going to surface. And it's not only the not love in me that's going to surface. I'm going to see the not love out here. And how do I minister at that moment? And to be quite honest with you, sometimes I minister at that moment with a judgment. Because I've been involved in these spiritual practices consciously since 1972, sooner rather than later, I notice. And then I congratulate myself for noticing, because I already mastered the skill of criticizing myself for having not been loving. I was really good at that. Anybody else good at that? Needs no more practice in my life. So when I notice that I'm thinking that I'm off the path, when I am believing my ego mind and I'm not criticizing my ego mind, it's a description of a particular way of thinking that has to do with separation, and this is this and that is that, and this is black and this is white and this is up and this is down. It's not a bad thing. It's very valuable to know when the light turned green to go and when it's red to stop. It's helpful. It's useful in our life to know those rules. And it is also crucial that when we notice that we're less than loving, it's a celebration. Because at that moment in the noticing, we are alive in the present. And the present, which is precious and a gift, and is now, is the time when we get to make a new choice. So I encourage you, have things, that's why I give out charms. And that's why I think they're enchanted. Because allow them to be reminders, not because we're bad people, but because we live in an evolving universe. And our capacity for love, our capacity to be light, is constantly expanding. It is not a destination. It is what our life is about each and every day. So I leave you with these words of a Lakota. I don't know the person's name. I'm going to make up that it's a woman since I used the pronoun he in reading Chief Seattle's words. We are Earth people on a spiritual journey to the stars. Our quest, our Earth walk, is to look within, to know who we are, to see that we are connected with all things, that there is no separation, only in the mind. And now, Keelan, who in my mind over the past 2 days, I imagined was choosing the absolute perfect song, Trusting Connection. Thank you very much.
Must bring salvation land. Whoa, where there is love.